hypocrisy is so evident, and the fact that the DOJ can't even answer for it, can't say, well, actually, no one should be shown mercy who does this. Not the folks we're putting away now and not the folks who were put away before.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So glad you pulled up today. So picture this. A Fox News panel sits down to celebrate one of the biggest Medicaid fraud busts in the country's history. Everybody nodding along, feeling good about cleaning house. And then Jessica calmly drops one question the rest of the table absolutely does not want to touch. She asks why the people at the very top who let a billion-dollar fraudster walk free are getting a pass, while everyone else gets the hammer. What happens next is a panel scrambling to change the subject, and it is something to watch. Stick around all the way through, because the back half is where this really turns and the cracks start showing in real time. And while you're here, do me a favor and drop a comment letting me know what city, state, or country you're tuning in from. I genuinely love seeing how far this little community reaches. All right, enough from me. Let's get into it.
You know, Dana, the thing that there's like a double fraud here, and that is the autism scandal. So you have all this money that goes to something, but then you also have the creation of an imaginary epidemic where all of a sudden everybody thought your kid has autism. Look at all these cases that are happening everywhere. What is autism? And it was like, how did this happen? It's as though Democrats are allergic to oversight. This is like the border.
And all of that led to a debunked cause that was announced by RFK Jr. on Tylenol. So that's been debunked as well. So all of that wasted energy and time based on this fraud. Also remember, the Attorney General of Minnesota, he was on the hook for this because he took money from the people, from those type of people, and said, don't worry, I'll make sure that they stop coming after you, that they stop investigating you. He comes to Congress in order to be to testify, and the Republicans didn't even let him talk.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really be done for perjury if you don't actually ever have to say a word. So that happened. The other thing is, I think that the administration is doing a good job of exposing this, but I think they need to get a little more granular. Yes, so $9 billion was taken, but what did that actually mean? So one of the things that happened is that they would tell senior citizens, here, sign up for home health care. Seniors were like, great, I need home health care. They signed up for it. The home health care didn't exist. The home health care never showed up, and the older people died.
Yeah.
That actually happened there. So I would get much more specific about what happened because of this fraud.
Yeah, you know, Jessica, I feel like I have scam envy. Like, why did I bother working for a living when I could just do this, come up with some home health care thing, you know, some telemarketing? I'm on a beach in Cancun, like a typical liberal Democrat.
No. Big fan of rooting out fraud. I think
good
it should
for you.
happen. I did notice that Amy Bach is not Somalian, and I was assured that it was the Somalis that were committing all the fraud.
Those are her. They worked with her.
Oh, I understand. I'm just saying that's the way that this was phrased.
All you see is color.
Oh, and when
funny?
you blanket say
How do you
it's
know
a
she's
Somalian.
not Somalian? Just
Joey, don't push me on this.
Okay.
All right. The clip that we didn't show, and I think that this relates to what Dana was talking about a bit, is the reporter asks McDonald, the DOJ official, President Trump has granted clemency to numerous individuals who have stolen hundreds of millions in Medicaid funds. Can we expect these folks to be shown the same mercy? And then McDonald says, I'll take a different question. And that's because he has no good answer for why Donald Trump, for instance, commuted the sentence of Philip Esworm, who stole $1.3 billion in Medicare and Medicaid funds and was sentenced to 20 years in jail and got out after 14 months. And this is why the GOP can't get that reconciliation bill through. They're being sent home because they can't defend his 1776 slush fund.
This is the moment the whole panel lost the thread, and Jessica was the only one in the room willing to say it out loud. Because here's what people don't realize. You cannot stand at a podium, brag about clawing back every stolen dollar, and then go quiet the second a reporter asks the obvious follow-up. Jessica pointed out that when the reporter asked the DOJ official whether the people who already got clemency for stealing hundreds of millions in Medicaid would face that same treatment, the official's answer was basically, I'll take a different question. Let that sink in. That is not an answer. That is a man running from his own logic in real time. And here's the part that gets me. Jessica brought up Philip Esworm, a man who ran one of the largest healthcare fraud schemes in American history, $1.3 billion stolen from Medicare and Medicaid, sentenced to 20 years and walked free after roughly 14 months because of a pardon. 14 months. You or I would do longer for far, far less. So when the message of the day is your days of freedom are numbered, you have to ask, numbered for do which exactly? because the biggest fish in this whole pond got handed a get-out-of-jail card and a handshake. That is why Jessica called it a slush fund, and honestly, she's being generous. When she said they can't defend that fund, she exposed the entire contradiction in one line. You don't get to be the sheriff and the getaway driver at the same time. Either fraud is fraud for everybody, or it's just a weapon you point at the people you don't like.
So the actions that Donald Trump is taking that are defrauding Americans, they're taking your tax dollars to let people off the hook or to pay off J6ers or whatever he's going to do with it, is the story of fraud that Americans right now who are struggling are focused on. And it makes these actions, and again, I think anyone who commits fraud should go to jail, but the hypocrisy is so evident, and the fact that the DOJ can't even answer for it, can't say, well, actually, no one should be shown mercy who does this. Not the folks who are putting away now and not the folks who were put away before.
You know, what's funny about this is, like, you care about January 6th, right? That's an insurrection. It's the worst thing ever. No, I'm making an analogy here. But like, it's silent when it's the local precinct that's getting burned down, or the local courthouse, or the local town, that, like Ferguson, Mississippi, or Minneapolis. You know, the whole summer of 2020, the summer of love. It's like, oh, well, those are just people that are trying to get their feelings heard, and they're oppressed, so they're trying to show it. So it's like when it attacks the town, the local municipality, when it attacks the state, it's not a big deal. But when it's at the Capitol, you know, now it's a huge deal because we can put it on TV, we can pin it on Trump. And it feels like you're doing the same thing with fraud. Like, the fact that this fraud that we're talking about through Minnesota or California, what people know is that it happens in just about every state across the country. It definitely happens in Republican states, because anytime the government puts a mandate on something and then puts money with it, there's going to be someone that'll take advantage of it. I say put the pedal to the metal on all of it. Everybody out there buying land and putting up solar farms so they can sell tax credits to get their bad business in the green and move it over to the red on the solar farm. Every time the federal government tries to mandate something and put money behind it, there are people there to take advantage of it. And I care more about fraud in my town and in my state than I do Donald Trump giving a favor to somebody. I don't like it. I agree with you. It's a bad look. There's not a politician out there that hasn't done something like that. That's why I generally just kind of speak badly of politicians and across the board. But when it comes to fraud in my town, when it's illegals in my town that claim 15 independents so they don't pay any taxes all year long, and when the IRS finally catches up with them, they go away, come back the next year with a new last name and a new Social Security number. That's fraud, and it happens by the hundreds of thousands in Northwest Georgia or all over Georgia, much less all the other things we're talking about, like the Leering Center and the healthcare things where people actually die.
And right on cue, watch how fast the conversation gets steered away from accountability. One of the co-hosts jumps in to say fraud definitely happens in Republican states too, that anytime the government attaches money to a mandate, someone will exploit it. And you know what? That part is actually true. But here's what people miss. Admitting fraud is everywhere is not the same thing as defending the person at the very top who let the biggest fraudster walk. Those are two completely different conversations, and one of them keeps getting buried on purpose. Then comes the line that really gets me. One of the co-hosts says he cares more about fraud in his town and his state than about someone powerful doing a favor for a buddy. Let me break down why that's such a convenient way to think. Local fraud and a pardon from the most powerful office in the country are not in competition with each other. You are allowed to care about both. Pretending it has to be one or the other is exactly how the big stuff slides through, while everyone argues about the small stuff. And Dana saying there's not a politician alive who hasn't done something like this. I understand the instinct, but that is the trap. The second you decide everyone is dirty, you stop holding anyone accountable at all. That mindset is a gift to whoever holds the most power every single time. Because here's the cruelest detail, the one a co-host slipped in almost as an afterthought. People actually died. Seniors signed up for care that never showed up. This was never just numbers on a spreadsheet, and we should never let anyone shrink it down to one.
Try going to the health department in a town that's overrun by illegals to get anything. Yeah. It doesn't happen because that's their free health care that they're going to take advantage of. All these municipal resources that we pay for with our taxes in a local area are sucked up by illegals that come there, or homeless and drug addicts, or anyone else who wants to disenfranchise themselves and rely on what's made available. That's fraud too, and go after every single bit of it.
Yeah, you know, crime is crime, crooks are crooks, but there's something actually more infuriating when you're an immigrant, when you come to this country legally or illegally, and you should be excited. I think about my own mom coming to this, country and getting her citizenship when I was 20, when I was in kindergarten and she was in her 20s. And she was so excited and felt so honored. We've stopped assimilating people. We're actually bringing people who hate us, who come from very exotic countries where there's a lot of corruption, and that's part of the culture. And then we incentivize them with free stuff, and then they do this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's bad that that lady, that you were talking about, that she did that. Of course, it's terrible. But I almost feel worse about the people who are doing it, who were kind of guests in our country, legally or illegally. And I'm really frustrated by it. And I really hope that this woman ends up uncovering a lot more. I hope they give her a deal so she uncovers all of the stuff, because this is everywhere.
And then the whole thing takes a turn, and this is the part I really want you to sit with. One of the co-hosts shares a genuinely moving story about a mother coming to this country, earning her citizenship, feeling honored and proud. And I love that story, I really do. But watch how fast it gets used as a wall instead of a bridge. In nearly the same breath, the argument becomes we've stopped assimilating people, we're bringing in folks who supposedly hate us, and then we hand them free stuff. And here's what people don't realize about that framing. It takes one criminal, one bad actor, and quietly stretches her into an entire category of human beings. Let me give you some real context, because history already answered this one. Every single major wave of immigration into this country faced the exact same accusation. In the 1800s, Irish and German newcomers were told they would never blend in, that they were too foreign, too loyal to somewhere else. Italians heard it. Eastern Europeans heard it. And every time, those same families became the doctors, the soldiers, the teachers, the backbone of entire cities. That is documented, settled history. So when someone insists this generation just can't assimilate, understand you are hearing the oldest line in the book, and it has been wrong every single time it's been used. What really gets me is the co-host saying he almost feels worse about people who came here as guests and then committed fraud. Think about what that move is doing. It takes ordinary greed, something that exists in every group, every zip code, every income bracket, and pins it onto where a person was born. Greed does not carry a passport. A criminal is a criminal because of their choices, not their accent. And look, on the actual point, I'm right there. A co-host hoping this ringleader gets a deal so she exposes more. That this corruption is everywhere? Good. Chase all of it. Just don't let anyone use real fraud as a costume for something uglier. Accountability is supposed to point up at power, not just sideways at the powerless. So what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.